Warning, this video is kind of complicated, but if you stick with me, I think you'll see at the end of the video that it's pretty eye-opening as well. What's up guys, it's DT here for a pretty interesting video on the Black Ops Pass. There's a lot of people out there that have been making videos about the Black Ops Pass. There's a lot of people out there who have been claiming, you know what, this is not fair. Basically, to have to buy all the DLC in one pre-packaged form in addition to the base game, and you're not allowed to buy the individual DLC at your choosing. People are wondering why they're doing this. Well, today I want to do something completely different. I'm going to basically map out a pricing strategy as if I was a Activision analyst to see why they're doing this. And you know, a lot of gamers out there are rightfully kind of worried or pissed or mad at the fact that, you know what, I can't choose which DLC I'm going to buy. Basically, for $50 or $100 if you buy the base game in tandem, which I believe you're forced to do, correct me if I'm wrong, you get 4 zombies maps, you get 12 multiplayer maps, and you get 4 exclusive blackout characters. But the thing is, if you wanted to buy some of those maps individually, as you could in prior Call of Duty games, you can't do that. So basically the world is asking themselves, why are Activision and the developers of this game, why are they doing this? Why are they joining forces to basically shove this Black Ops Pass down our throat for a set fee and you cannot divide it up in the future? Well, today I'm going to look at a hypothetical pricing strategy that's going to kind of break down this Black Ops Pass in a business way. Now, just for the record, this video is going to be 100% subjective. This is not concrete information. This is just my analysis as someone who has worked in the business field at corporations in the past, and basically I've done this kind of stuff in prior jobs after I got my MBA. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to look at the Black Ops Pass from an analytical perspective because, you know, so many people out there right now are just saying, you know, the Black Ops Pass sucks. This is unfair. Why are they doing this? Well, why are they doing this? Let's go ahead and try to answer that question by looking at some numbers. So let's take a look at what I have prepared so far. Now, this Google Sheet here on Drive is going to look a little daunting at first, but I'm going to walk you through it. Basically, what I have done is mapped out the potential benefits and the pricing strategy for the Black Ops 4 Pass, just to see if we can understand why they're doing this. Are they making more money this way? You know, that's a general question that I think is justified, and at least in terms of asking. So let's go ahead and dive into this hypothetical model. So this is one of those videos that you do not want to just listen to, right? Pay attention to your screen because I'm going to go over a lot of numbers and I'm going to go line by line to basically see how we can see the big picture of the Black Ops 4 Pass, or at least the, I'm going to call it the Blast, by the way. Black Ops 4 Season Pass, Blast, you get what I'm saying. So basically, here's the hypothetical world we're living in. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 comes out and it costs $60, okay? Now, we're going to assume 15 million people in total across the entire lifespan of the product buy Call of Duty Black Ops 4. How did I get to that number? Well, here is a general estimation on how many copies of the Call of Duty games get sold across the board. It's generally in the range from like 10 to 30 million units. So I've gone in the middle. What is the total revenue for Activision? They gain $900 million, okay? This is not profit, by the way, and I made sure not to label it as profit. Revenue does not account for costs. You know, if they spend $500 million on the game, then their revenue would not be $900 million, it would be $400 million. They get $900 million from this endeavor. But then, okay, now let's move on to the DLC. DLC 1 comes out, and historically, Call of Duty DLCs have cost about $15, haven't they? So we're going to assume that the DLC, if they were going with a traditional model, which this is the model that I've planned out here, and I'm going to show you the other one here in a second, is $15. Okay, how many of those buyers are going to be picking up Call of Duty's first DLC? There's really no way to tell. And as a kind of soft estimate, I've given them the benefit of the doubt, and I've said, you know what, 50% of the original buying pool will purchase the DLC number 1. That is 7.5 million players. That's probably way more than the actual number, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt here. So 50% of the buyers buy the DLC 1 pack, which means the other 50% don't buy the product, which means that they have lost 50% of this number times the DLC cost, which turns out to be $112 million. Yeah, we're talking about a lot of money here. Since the other 50% of those buyers bought the DLC pack number 1, they've also made $112 million. Adding that to the base game revenue, we have a revenue of over $1 billion. Do I have your attention yet? Okay, so let's move on to DLC number 2. So DLC 2 comes out for $15 once again. What I've done here is I've multiplied the buying pool of 15 million players by 50% for the DLC and then 50 additional percent for the second DLC. This is because not all of these 50% of this 15 million player pool is going to buy said DLC number 2, right? It's a percentile, it's a fraction. So we have to multiply this twice. So we multiply the original number by its DLC pool number 1, 50%, and then we apply a second variation, 50%. And what we're given when we do that is a revenue of $56 million. Of course, this number goes down over time because less and less people buy DLCs as time goes on. Because people pick up new games, they get bored of the game in the first place. Only a fraction of the player base is going to keep buying these DLCs. DLC 2 comes out with a revenue of $56 million. Now we add that to the base game and the DLC number 2, and we're at $1,068 million. Sounds pretty good right now, doesn't it? DLC 3 comes out. Whoops. And let's just give them the benefit of the doubt once again. 50% of the remaining player base purchases DLC number 3, which nets them $28 million. Adding that to the prize pool, we're talking about almost $1.1 billion in total revenue for the base game and the first 3 DLCs. Now, moving on to the final DLC. As we all know, there's usually 4 quarterly DLC packs for Call of Duty because it's an annual franchise. So here we go again. DLC 4 comes out. Once again, $15. Now let's just say, what the hell? Let's just say that this DLC pack is incredibly popular and it's got something really, really special. So 70% of the remaining player base, once we've taken into account the reductions of the player base with the prior DLCs, it nets them $15 additional million for a grand whopping total of $1.112 billion. So this is basically the model for every single Call of Duty that has come out beforehand that has had individual DLCs that players could purchase at their own will. So as you guys can see in this graph, we have a upward trend based off of how much DLC cash comes in for the base game adding on top of that. So over time we get a lot more money. Hopefully that doesn't cost us too much money to make this DLC. So we end up with over $1.112 billion in pure revenue. Once we've taken into account our costs, then we get our profits, all said and done. So you guys can see why DLC is made, right? As long as you can make it cheap, then you'll continue getting supplementary income as time goes on. So here's the basic overview of what I just talked about. This is the total revenue of the base game. Then you add on DLC 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and then that's where you get the $1.12 billion. Now this supplementary revenue is basically the DLC revenue minus the total revenue of the base game. So you can see how important it is to get DLC, sell it, and then make money on top of it to basically fuel your company going forward into the future. So this is Exhibit A, what a traditional Call of Duty DLC pricing strategy could look like if you were an industry analyst. Basically what I have done is hypothetically created my own little buying world, predicted some of the buying behaviors of the player base, and I have mapped out how much revenue we're going to get over time. The question is, why not take this $1.112 billion in traditional DLC revenue? Why don't you just take it? Well, here's the kicker and the reason for this video. And the reason for this is because of this. This is a hypothetical model for the Black Ops 4 Season Pass. Okay? And as you guys can see already, it's making more money. Charge $60 for the base game as well. We have the same amount of buyers, 15 million. Our revenue is once again $900 million. We add on top the Season Pass, which is valued at or around $50. We have, let's just say, 35% of people buy the Season Pass for Black Ops 4, which, by the way, is probably an incredibly low estimate. So this revenue for this particular Season Pass model is probably much higher. But what I'm trying to do here is give the absolute lowest rock bottom number of buyers to just make my point come across. And you're going to see this here in a second. So 35% of buyers purchase the Black Ops 4 Season Pass. But of course, not everyone's going to buy the Black Ops 4 Season Pass, and in our model, almost twice as many people are not going to buy it. So they're going to miss out on almost $500 million. That is absolutely crazy. This number here in red is the amount of money that they have lost from no buyers. But of course, they have made money on the 35% of people who did buy it, and that is $262 million. Now, when you add that to the price of the base game and the revenue for the base game, you get a whopping $1.162 million. So, now that you can kind of see the whole picture here, I asked the question, which strategy for their pricing should they go with? Should they go with a traditional DLC model where everyone chooses what DLC they're going to buy and they get incremental revenue over the course of the life cycle? Or should they go with a $50 required DLC season pass? As you guys can see here, it's a no-brainer. They're going to make an additional $50 million by going with a season pass model that is required and charges $50. The cool thing is you can adjust this number here for the buyer percentage to see how this number can truly get out of control. Now, as I said before, in this model, 35% of the total buyer pool purchased the Black Ops 4 Season Pass. What if we increase that number to, let's say, 45%? Wow, look what that just did. That increased our revenue by $49 million to $124 million. So about $75 million in pure revenue by simply adjusting that number up 10%. Now you might be saying, that's still low, Tone Log. Don't you think about 50% of people are going to buy the Black Ops 4 Season Pass? I don't know, but you know what? Let's just take a look. Wow, an additional $40 million, right? So you can kind of see how important it is to market your game appropriately, do really flashy trailers, get the hype culture going, to make sure that the Season Pass is absolutely purchased. And you guys can obviously see why they're doing this and the motives behind it, because they are not allowing you not to purchase the Season Pass without the base game in the first place. Yes, if you go to the Activision FAQ, you cannot buy the Black Ops 4 Season Pass, the Black Ops Pass, or the Blast as I call it, standalone. Are you freaking kidding me? This is absolutely 100% representative of what I just went over, right? They want you to lump it in with the base game, must buy the Season Pass, $100 purchase or something like that. You get the perspective here, right? It's just a game to see how much money they can get, right? I've worked for businesses, right? I'm not trying to be negative here. I'm not trying to be a pessimist. I'm not trying to say that Activision's evil. I'm just saying they're a corporation, you know? They're a business, and this is what analysts do when they work for Activision, right? They got a team of financial and pricing and marketing analysts out there working in those air conditioning facilities at Activision. This is what they do. They build models to see how much they can make for the company and what the best pricing strategies are for their new video games. What happens when we up that number to 60%? Oh shit, we just made an additional $90 million, right? This is what I'm trying to get across for this video. What is the best strategy for a business? A traditional DLC model, incremental DLC purchases, allow consumers to make the choice of what they want to buy. The numbers here clearly tell the story. Now, of course, as I said earlier, these numbers are not concrete. This is completely hypothetical. This could be absolutely batshit wrong. But I think the model at least is correct, and the perspective of what these numbers do to the pricing strategy, I think that remains 100%. If you still don't understand what's going on here, let me kind of go back to my Econ 300 course. This is kind of what they're trying to do. So let's go ahead and graph this out. We've got a graph here, and we probably got what down here? Time, T for time. And then, of course, up here we got money. Basically, the incremental historical DLC model for Call of Duty games probably looks something like this. You got your boom in sales early. You probably got a little bit of refund window, and then going up again, but then starts to kind of teeter out. Oh, DLC 1, teeters out again. DLC 2, teeters out again. DLC 3, DLC 4, and then pretty much dead game, right? So that's pretty much how it looks. What I believe the Black Ops 4 Season Pass model actually looks like is probably something like this. You've got a lot of revenue coming in early on, right? There's a lot of distance here between these two lines on the time axis. But you've also got a lot of money here sitting on the table. So in my model, I try to represent what this looked like. And we've got to take into consideration that this is a business here, right? Video games and businesses walk hand in hand. So I hope this visual representation was at least somewhat helpful to kind of look at the situation in the big picture to see actually why they're doing this as a corporation and not just because they're making a video game. I hope this video was kind of maybe a little bit eye-opening. I know it's probably a little bit confusing to some people who don't work with numbers and deal with graphs and visualizations and stuff like that, but I think across the board, the Call of Duty Black Ops 4 Season Pass, or like I said, BLAS, is something that a lot of people out there just are not happy with, but of course, there's a reason for it, and I wanted to show that in today's video. So you make up your own mind. Is this system good for gamers? Is the Black Ops 4 Season Pass a good thing, a bad thing? I think most people will agree it's not a good thing, but it's up to you to decide. You guys let me know in the comment section down below what you think, and I'll read your comments and hopefully respond to as many as I can. Hopefully this video was pretty cool, a little bit different, and maybe a little bit eye-opening as well. So have a great day, guys. This is the Black Ops 4 Season Pass hypothetical model by Tone Loc and Downward Thrust. It's not right, but I'm hoping it's probably as close to being right as it takes to see the bigger message with what businesses do to products in the video game industry. So take care, guys. We'll see you in our next video. Peace, love, and happiness until then.